In this section, we're going to be talking all about just setting up problems. We're going to be dealing a lot in later on about percent equations and how to find different parts of a percent equation. But there are different ways of setting them up and solving them, and one method is the proportion method. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to practice and look at how do we set up the proportion correctly. And then we're not going to solve them here. We're just going to set them up. And then in a later section, we'll actually go through and solve them. So this way you can get some good practice before we actually have to work them. Okay, now if you'll remember when we were talking about proportion problems, we set them up. These were fractions that were equal to each other, right? This was where we were comparing two things. And our the way that it was written was something maybe like 3 is to 5 as 6 is to 10. We might have had something that looked like that. And we would set this up as 3 compared to 5. So we were comparing those two things, as was our equals. And then we had 6 compared to 10. And we knew that this was a true proportion. We could use the cross product, and we would see that 30 is equal to 30. Or we could just simply treat this as fractions that we did before and say, well, look, if we multiply top and bottom by 2, we get this fraction. Or we could simplify and make sure that we had the same fraction on both sides. So there was all kinds of different ways that we could work with it. But now what we're going to be concentrating on here is just simply the setup. So we need to know what it is that we're looking for. Okay, so when we're dealing with a percent proportion, here's kind of your setup rules. We say the part is to the whole as percent is to 100. So doesn't that look exactly like what we were doing before with our proportion problems? This is what we have to get used to. Now, on bottom here we always have a 100 because remember, percent means per 100. When we're dealing with a percent, 100% is all of it. So if we were dealing with 60%, we would say that'd be the same thing as saying 60 out of 100. So our percent we're going to write on top of 100. And again, that would be equivalent to saying a portion of the whole amount, or a part compared to the whole. So we're going to practice these in a couple of videos here. And the hardest part is going to be figuring out what goes where. So that's what we're practicing this time. And then in the next lessons or so, we'll start learning how to actually solve them. So really concentrate on getting this pattern in your head and how to be able to put things where they belong.